To the studios, Chris Fallaci, who is general counsel with UNAP. So we want to talk about the impacts. Come on in, Chris. I'm going to have you.
Good afternoon.
I appreciate your coming on in and talking with us. All things going on right now with healthcare, with Care New England, with partners, with everyone else in the state, and what the potential impact could be on your membership with the nurses and allied professionals. So we had a little conversation in the green room about a little bit of the history of how we've gotten to where we are right now. And maybe we can start with that. Here we are, April 2017, looking at yet another shakeup in the healthcare realm. Is this surprising to you?
It is not surprising to me for a number of reasons. We have seen that the landscape in healthcare has changed drastically over the course of the last 5 or 6 years. The state has not had a comprehensive plan. And therefore, healthcare has just sort of happened, whether it's a joint venture, an acquisition, a receivership, a bankruptcy. So we've seen Landmark be bought by a for-profit. We've seen Westerly be bought by a not-for-profit. We've seen Roger Williams and Fatima be bought by a not-for-profit. For-profit. We saw Memorial come into Care New England. And now we see Care New England struggling and on the verge of perhaps being acquired by partners, and the state can't keep up with it. It's just breakneck speed changes in the industry.
And you talk about this breakneck speed, and I know your focus is here in Rhode Island. Do other states have a more of a hand in their hospital and healthcare industry than Rhode Island does, which is you basically just said has very little hand?
I don't know what happens in other states, but I can tell you that you would think that it would be a little bit easier for a state of this size to manage healthcare, but that has not happened. And so, as I say, there have been mergers and acquisitions and joint ventures, and very little, in my view, very little input from policymakers and lawmakers about how that's going to be shaped and what it's going to look like. We just have these transactions taking place quickly, and the state not being able to keep up with it or plan for it.
So we talked a little bit about how just previously Lifespan had made an indication that they were looking at Care New England now. We've had some speculation as to what that actually had meant. This sort of deal, whatever happens to Care New England, has to be approved by Department of Health, the Attorney General. There's state interests overseeing this. Where do you see the role of Lifespan fitting into this as we speak, as it looks now that Care New England is looking at partners? Are they still a player in this?
Well, I think you'd have to ask Tim Babineau of Lifespan that question, but I would say that if you read the tea leaves and you consider the comments that he has made publicly, he would prefer a local Rhode Island solution to the Care New England problem, which means to me that he does not want to be in a position where he's going to be competing with partners. And I would suspect that the role that Lifespan plays in this transaction is going to be to oppose it and derail it. Now, I don't get that from Lifespan. I get that from reading the tea leaves. That's what I think is going to happen. So if Dr. Babineau was cringing by that, I'm not attributing those comments to him. I'm telling you that that's the way I think this is going to go vis-a-vis Lifespan.
Well, you have obviously a very specific role in all of this, representing your membership at UNAP as counsel. Lifespan or partners? What's the better option?
Well, I don't know what the better option is. I would tell you that when Landmark went into receivership and was bought out of receivership by Prime Healthcare Services, a for-profit in California, Lifespan had said that there was an interest in buying Landmark, but that it would be turned into a treat and transport facility where you would do away with most of the inpatient beds. There would be several hundred people laid off. It would not be a full-service community hospital as it had been in the past and as it has continued to be under Prime. And if that's the way that they still view their business model, I don't know that that would turn out well for all the hospitals in the Care New England system. But we also don't know what Partners has planned, and we've reached out to them and their attorneys to speak with them. Our view is that we will expect and we will propose that all the Care New England jobs are preserved, that the clinical lines of service are preserved, that perhaps there's some expansion of healthcare services, that collective bargaining agreements we have with our Care New England hospitals are honored, that those agreements will be extended, and that there'll be a full commitment to the community, not just a matter of picking and choosing what they want to keep open and having all of the energy go up across state lines into Massachusetts.
And do you think that, again, let's again prospectively, because this is all speculation at this point, if it does end up being a partners and you do, want to meet and make those types of requests of them, if they don't meet them, do you expect that we might see action on the part of your membership? Would that be possible in terms of a strike or any type of action from them?
It will be more than possible. It will be inevitable. Our union has been in the middle of the receivership at Landmark, in the middle of the receivership at Westerly, in the middle of the transaction between Prospect Medical Holdings and Charter Care. We were involved when Memorial originally came into the Care New England system. We are a very active union. There's high union density in the Care New England system, and if the commitments that I mentioned a moment ago are not met, we will put our members in motion. We'll be involved in the regulatory process. We'll be involved politically and otherwise to oppose the deal. The flip side is that if we get face time with partners and that we can work out an agreement that satisfies the goals that we have as a union on behalf of our members, then we may very well throw our support behind that transaction.
And one of the things we had discussed is the role of Memorial Hospital in this. Now, you have members at Memorial, and they're looking now as a part of Care New England to actually sell them off to Prime, who, as we know, is with Landmark. But you brought up some interesting points about Prime and some things that have happened on the national stage that folks might not know about here and have happened since Landmark that might be worth pointing out to viewers here.
Right, so what I would point out to your viewers is that Prime has had a presence in the state by purchasing Landmark, and Prime has been here for approximately 3 or 4 years. Since they did the Landmark transaction, they were defendants in a case out in California that I believe is still pending, in which just this past June of 2016, the Department of Justice intervened on behalf of, I think it's Health and Human Services, alleging that there has been significant Medicare fraud by Prime Healthcare Services in terms of upcoding, in terms of having patients admitted as inpatients when that was otherwise inappropriate. I'm not suggesting at all, and I would say that there's no evidence of that here in Rhode Island at Landmark, but I will say that that complaint is pending out on the West Coast. We're going to pay attention to it. We hope the regulators and all the stakeholders in Rhode Island pay attention to it, because that's serious stuff, and we don't want that occurring here in Rhode Island.
And if, say, Prime was to turn out to not, in fact, be the player with Memorial Hospital, what becomes of Memorial if Plan A doesn't pan out?
Well, a couple of things. So we've also reached out to Prime, and we have the same view of what we want to happen at Memorial as we do for the overall Care New England system. We're prepared to sit down and work with them. So just because we're concerned about their record out on the West Coast does not mean that we won't speak with them, and we might not ultimately support a Prime transaction there. But in terms of what happens to Memorial if Prime is not the buyer, all I can tell you is that Prime was not the only party that expressed an interest in buying Memorial. Care New England hired a consultant out of Chicago to find potential buyers, and Prime was not the only entity that expressed an interest. And mind you, I would just throw this out there that may come as a surprise to your audience, but look, why not suggest to partners that they buy the entire system and they fortify Memorial and the entire Care New England system and make that work? That's something that we may want to talk about. We'd love to talk to partners about that, and maybe they'll talk to us about it. We'll see. So
do we get the sense clearly that partners is cherry picking, looking to get the more healthier hospitals in the system, so to speak, and say you've got to deal with Memorial?
Well, I don't know if it's cherry picking. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. There was sort of this dual track here where Care New England was seeking a buyer for the system minus Memorial. Look. We have been upset and disappointed with Care New England's position publicly over the years, that first they came and they were going to bring Memorial in and they were going to fortify that community asset. It was going to be a full-service hospital. It would expand. And then what happened? They couldn't turn it around, and then they actually, in our view as a union, they turned on Memorial, and now they're looking to cut it loose and let it sail out to sea, which is really unfortunate. We're disappointed by their failures in that regard. Don't know if partners is cherry picking, or whether the Care New England board simply said, look, these are, we're going to flip Memorial, and we'll do a deal with the rest of the system with whoever expresses an interest. Not sure how that went. And
again, let's prospectively play out again if a partner's acquisition of Care New England happens. What does that look like? I mean, to the average Rhode Islander, you represent UNAP and professionals, but what does the hospital system look like in a post-Care New England world in which partners a heavily Boston-centric system, very close ties to Harvard Medical School. We've got Brown Medical School here that I want to talk with Dr. Fine about that after. What does the hospital system even just look like if we are absorbed by a much larger entity that's Boston-based?
Well, our hope is that the integrity of the Care New England system as it exists now, and preferably with Memorial, will remain constant and will be fortified going forward. We believe that that system will be fine. If it can stabilize financially, that it will be fine, and our hope is that partners can bring capital investment to the system and make it work. So our position is going to be, and our hope is that Care New England will maintain all of its current hospitals and preserve jobs and services and perhaps expand. That might make Dr. Babineau unhappy because expansion may be at the lifespan's expense, but that's what we hope that it'll look like. What it'll actually look like, we don't know. But it will be vetted by more than our union. It'll be vetted by, I'm sure, the governor and the General Assembly and the regulators and any other stakeholders out there who have an interest in healthcare, and who doesn't. We all need healthcare at one point or another in our lives.
It all impacts everyone here in the state, and that's why, again, I wanted you in and wanted to ask that sort of broader question, sort of even beyond UNAP. One of the things I did want to broach with you, because we talked about it a little bit before you came on, it's kind of not like a word association game. It's the comments made by former Director of Administration Gary Sass that I will replay to you, and I kind of want your reaction to what he said. Now, again, the former State's Department of Administration Director had given these comments to Go Local earlier this week, and he had said, and this is Gary Sass's opinion, critical issues to review and consideration of the proposed merger is that Care New England being financially problematic and a merger with Partner brings immediate fiscal stability. That was point one. That Partners operates world-class hospitals and can be used to leverage access to specialized services up there. That was his second point. Third, that the merger may open the door to ways to reduce healthcare costs without sacrificing quality. That Rhode Island does not have a true standalone economy. This is what Sass is alluding to and alleging, saying that its economic future is tied inextricably to the region, and that the merger would make Rhode Island more of a player in regional healthcare strategies. And that he does touch upon Prime. The option of Prime buying Pawtucket Memorial beats the alternative of closing the money hemorrhage facility. And finally, the sixth point, the alternative of Lifespan taking over CNE, he said raises antitrust and monopoly concerns. Maybe let's start with that last point because we've been talking about Lifespan. Would that raise the specter up into the level of discussing a monopoly?
Well, let me say this. I'm not an antitrust attorney, and I don't know if Mr. Sass is.
I'm not an antitrust attorney.
The same concerns were raised in years past when Lifespan and Care New England attempted to merger, and those issues will be vetted as part of a process. So there need not be a concern in that regard, because if that is a real problem from a legal standpoint, it will be resolved. The idea that maybe we should fall behind a prime purchase of Memorial because the alternative of closing is not quite as attractive isn't exactly a ringing endorsement of Prime. And I would just go back to some comments I made earlier, which is that I'm pretty sure that Prime was not the only entity that expressed an interest in Memorial. Now, I don't know the other ones, and I don't know whether they would be good or not good, but I'd like to think that our view of Memorial will be a little bit more uplifting than saying, hey, listen, why not? Let's go with Prime because the alternative doesn't work.
Don't go with the least of all evils?
I don't know if I subscribe to that. I also like to think that our state has a pretty vibrant economy. Look, there are lots of criticisms about our tax structure or whether or not we're hostile to the business community. Look, I think Rhode Island's a gem. I think we have a promising economy. I don't know that we're, the orphans of Massachusetts, as may be suggested by Mr. Sass. I want to put words in the guy's mouth, but I think he touches on some cogent points, and that those are, for example, I don't think there's any question that Partners has a reputation for quality, and I do think that they probably will have access to capital that Care New England sorely needs to stabilize and get back on its feet, and those are good things.
Now, to kind of wrap up here, as we're talking so much about Care New England and the potential Partners merger or acquisition, You're general counsel at UNAP. This is just one of the many things that you're dealing with at this time. Want to share with us sort of what else is going on in the UNAP world that is taking up your time that folks should be aware of?
Well, in addition to trying to get on top of this Partners Care New England thing and this Prime Memorial thing, we have been in a bit of a labor dispute with Prospect Medical Holdings, the for-profit from California that entered into a joint venture with Charter Care being Roger Williams Medical Center and Our Lady of Fatima Hospital. They have an 85% interest, and we have found that they have been very difficult to deal with, and we have questioned their, I don't mind saying directly, questioned their trustworthiness. And we've had agreements with them that they have not lived up to. They made a commitment when they did the joint venture to maintain Elmhurst Lawn Care Facility for 5 years, and then they flipped it well within the 5-year period. They were involved in that debacle with former Mayor Paolino selling a piece of real estate. I think it was a St. Joe's clinic or building over in the south side, and not really caring what the people in that community thought about it. And then when Mr. Paolino had his press conference, the thing blew up and the governor went out the back door, and some of the state reps who were there thinking this was a good photo op, were hiding under the table. We have seen that Prospect doesn't exactly keep their word. And mind you, we did support a tax treaty for them in North Providence and Providence. But while they continue to enjoy the benefits of that tax relief, they have not exactly kept their promises to the people here. They said also that they would create jobs, and there have been 3 or 4 layoffs in the Charter Care system since they took over. So that occupies a fair amount of my time.
And finally, as we wrap up here, again, no one has the crystal ball, but we did just find out about this exploration of the merger. What does a time frame even look like? If you're the person who's looking at the news, going on Go Local, hearing about this, who might not be associated with UNAP or working at one of the healthcare organizations, weeks, months, what do you anticipate?
Well, it will be months because, first of all, the letters of intent have been signed between the parties, and all that really means is, okay, now we intend to pursue a partnership, but there has to be a lot of due diligence that's done, an enormous exchange of information, and maybe more often than not, even when parties sign a letter of intent, they don't actually get to a deal. I mean, Care New England went down this road with South Coast recently, and it blew up.
Yep.
But this period of diligence, if you will take at least 2 months.
Okay.
If they get through that time period and they sign what's known as a definitive agreement with the details of what the deal is going to be, then they have to take time to gather information that must be submitted to our regulators, the Attorney General, Department of Health, because those folks will ultimately decide whether or not to approve the deal. You don't always get your application approved in the first crack. So I think you're looking at a situation where the fastest a Prime Memorial deal could go would be 6 months.
Okay.
Could be more than that. A Partners Care New England deal.
2018?
2 state regulatory processes. Could be 2018.
Yeah.
Not sure about that one, but a long time.
Well, as you mentioned, it takes up a large part of your time, so I appreciate you coming in here to take the time and explain to folks a little bit what's going on in this fast-moving, fast-changing healthcare industry, and just wanted to know again about the impact on your membership, so don't hesitate to reach out to us and let viewers know what's going on at UNAP.
You guys have a great program, and I'm glad you had us in. We're happy to speak to the issues.
Well, I appreciate it, Chris. Chris Fallaci with UNAP coming in today to talk with us about what's happening again with this potential exploration of a merger with Care New England and with Partners Healthcare, a Boston-based large organization, and what that could